RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD. BlenderHD. You're going to follow me on Twitter. And it's Wednesday, January 8th. We'll be taking a first look at the wildcard rounds of the NFL this coming weekend. We got 6 games. We got multiple slates on both DraftKings and FanDuel, but we'll take a look at it all. So hit the thumbs up button on your way in the door. Give me those tummy thumbs. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to always know when I go live. We see here in Lineup HQ, we got some initial projections up. SimLabs is not up yet, I don't believe. We have multiple slates. Obviously, you can play the 2-game slate on Saturday. You can play the 3-game slate on Sunday, or you could play, and obviously, Monday Showdown, or you could play Saturday through Monday with all 6 games. So there's multiple slates for you to win some money. Big contests. I think the main Sunday one, I think, is the biggest one. And remember, these games are all spread out, so no one's playing at the same time. The 2-gamer on Saturday is going to be probably maybe the worst slate. I mean, essentially, we take a look at the totals here. The highest total on the whole board for the whole weekend is the Commanders Buccaneers game. That's at 50.5 currently. We got the Vikings Rams at 47.5. Packers Eagles is at 45.5. Then we got Denver Buffalo, that's 46.5. We got 43.5 Pittsburgh Baltimore, and 42.5 for the Chargers and the Texans. Some pretty big spreads here. I mean, Baltimore is favored by it looks like 9.5 points. Buffalo's favored by 8.5. Philly is favored by 4.5. Then we got the Buccaneers are favored by 3 at home. The Chargers are 2.5-point favorites on the road to the Texans, and the Vikings are 1.5 favorites on the road to the Rams. And based on our initial projections, if you're playing the full Saturday through Monday slate, essentially just as a first look, we'll be just looking at all 6 games. So obviously, if you're playing the 2-game slate on Saturday, it'll only be players from those games, and same for Sunday, same for Monday. We'll look on both DraftKings and FanDuel. I mean, normally on a regular season week, we'd have a lot more games. You'd have one main slate to work on, but here we'll be doing DraftKings and FanDuel because I think the pricing is a little bit different, a little different constructions on both sites. But the games to target are probably the last two. Probably Buccaneers, Commanders, and the Vikings Rams game. You'll see that if you're playing the full 6-game slate, I think you're going to be taking a lot more players from the Vikings Rams game than anywhere else. But there's still value to be had elsewhere. So let's go position by position, and we're playing the full 6-game slate. Remember, you can extrapolate this down to slate by slate. The same thing we'll be doing on Friday with GPP strategy. We'll be talking a little bit more about like the full 6-game slate, and then like 2-game slate dynamics. They're kind of weird for GPPs. And then obviously Showdown on Mondays. We'll have a pre-lock show. We'll have a pre-lock show for all of the slates. So feel free to tune in on early on Saturday, on Sunday, and on Monday night. We'll have shows on the channel. I think if you're playing the all 6-game slate, top option at quarterback is going to be Sam Darnold. I mean, from a price perspective, obviously you have Jaden Daniels, you have Josh Allen up there. From a rushing perspective, we take a look at some of these props. Props have already gone up because, it's the playoffs, so there's not much like waiting for injury reports and who's going to play and stuff like that. If you're healthy, you're playing, right? We're assuming Jalen Hurts is playing. We're assuming Jordan Love is playing. We're assuming Zay Flowers is out. Rappaport already said that he's he's expected to be out. So we already have Zay Flowers out in our projections. But looking through here, obviously if you can get up to Josh Allen, sure, get up to Josh Allen. But you'll see that value on these slates is going to be tough to find, right? We're not finding some 4K player that should be a 6K player on this slate. You're going to be punting with someone that may only catch the ball 2 or 3 times at wide receiver, or you're playing a second tight end for no reason, right? The pricing is a little bit softer than usual, just slightly, but not that great. But I would consider the first first option at quarterback this week on DraftKings. We'll do FanDuel after we do DraftKings. But Sam Darnold, 6,500. He has the highest passing prop on the board. I mean, other than Baker, like if Baker's 6,800, and Baker has just maybe slightly higher rushing upside, slightly by a couple of yards, slightly higher passing touchdown odds, right? You see minus 190 here at 1.5. I think Baker's fine. I think I would prefer Darnold, and if I got up, probably I'd almost feel like I'd rather play Jaden Daniels than Josh Allen. Just from I mean, Josh Allen is much more likely to score a touchdown. Jaden Daniels, I think, is much more likely to be in a position where he's throwing and rushing a lot more, like rushing for 50 yards and throwing 2 touchdowns. But I don't think you're necessarily paying up at quarterback. I think you can be living in the mid-range more so. We're talking about like single entry cash game type of stuff, like high mean projected lineups. I think Sam Darnold, 6,500, Justin Herbert, 6,000. Can you play Lamar? Sure. I guess you can. Stafford, Matt, 5,700. But I think the top targets on the full slate are going to be Darnold, Mayfield, Herbert. You're probably just not going to have the money. I'm not a big fan of like punting in multiple spots. You'll see we probably have to punt at one wide receiver spot to some degree. But if you want to pay up at quarterback, you can be punting in multiple spots, and there's no great value. There's really no great value. Most of the pricing on these slates are very efficient or close to efficient. Then we get to the running back position on DraftKings. I think the clear top option is Bucky Irving at 7,000. Tampa Bay has one of the higher, right? The second highest implied team total. It should be a competitive game. Shouldn't be game scripted out or anything, even though, he's pretty much, Rachaad White has been, pretty much pushed aside. I think Rachaad White got 21 snaps and no touches in the last game that they played in a competitive game. And Irving is pretty much, he's catching balls out of the backfield. He's, obviously rushing the ball at every opportunity they could get. His prop is 87.5. It's the third highest on the board because obviously the top rushing options are Saquon Barkley at 8,500, Derrick Henry at 8,200, and I think they're both fine. They're if you can pay for these guys, sure. I think I prefer Henry over Barkley, which is Baltimore is just a much bigger favorite against the Steelers than the Eagles are against the Packers. And also the way that like to me, this Packers-Eagles game, the way that these teams naturally play, I don't think there's going to be as many plays in that game compared to other games. Because you got Philly, when they go up, they're one of the more run-heavy teams, and the Packers are the same way. Like if the Packers go down 2 touchdowns out, now they start chucking the ball. But for the most part, you're going to see Josh Jacobs. You're going to see Josh Jacobs touch the ball 25 times. And then you have Barkley there, and then Barkley touches the ball 25 times and then doesn't get any of the touchdowns because, he's down at the 3-yard line, the 1-yard line, and it's either, some play action pass or some tush push or something. So I think for the price, Bucky Irving at 7K is number one option. Also, Kyron Williams at 7,400. Especially, Blake Corum is done. I'm not sure Blake Corum matters anyway, but we saw that Corum would get a drive, like in the later part of the season, that Kyron Williams, even though he would get like 75% of the snaps, he was seeding some work. I don't think he's seeding any work. I think Kyron Williams could possibly play 100% of the snaps in this game. They are underdogs. And he doesn't catch balls out of the backfield as much as he used to, especially with Kupp and Nakua and Higbee and all those guys healthy now. But still at 7,400 for the price. We see his rushing prop is 84.5, minus 140 to score a touchdown. Right, his receiving yards are not, they're not the best. I think I would if you had the 800, I think I would prefer Henry. But I'm not sure if you're going to get up there. Outside of that, I think Is Aaron Jones viable? Yeah. I mean, he's cheaper. I mean, Aaron Jones and J.K. Dobbins are like on the cheaper side. Aaron Jones has a little bit more like receiving work upside. But I think I would prefer the Chargers. I mean, I because if you play Minnesota, I mean, a lot of this Vikings Rams game is going to be chalky, right? Are you going to be playing these guys in cash? I'm not sure. I actually think on DraftKings it's quite possible that like the optimal like cash lineup has like two tight ends in it rather than three running backs. But I think Aaron Jones, J.K. Dobbins, perfectly fine. Joe Mixon, I mean, the Texans are underdogs, but he should get most of the work out of the backfield. He'll catch balls. He's probably the one with he has one of the higher reception props on the week. Minus 130 to score a touchdown. I don't think he's bad. I think he's more viable when we get to FanDuel than on DraftKings. Then you got Josh Jacobs, 7,700. James Cook, great GPP play, 6,700. I think he's fine. And then we get down to like Najee and Warren and McLaughlin. And I just don't think you're punting with these spots, especially in like cash type lineups. I think it's much more likely that you're playing Bucky and Kyron or Bucky and Derrick Henry, and then seeing what you could fit in. Maybe can you fit in a Dobbins or a Jones? I don't know. If we run our current optimal, right, you'll see here, you see double tight end, right? You see Kyron, Bucky, double tight end. I think that's more viable than just having to jam in like a Dobbins. We see here, we try to optimize with Dobbins in there. I mean, it's doable. You're still playing two tight ends. I mean, yeah, I think I'd much rather play Bucky and Kyron in like cash type lineups as a priority than some of these receivers. And we get to the receivers. I think the top option on the full slate, Sunday through Monday, is Saturday through Monday, is Puka Nacua. He's not the most expensive receiver on the slate. So you got Jefferson there. You got A.J. Brown at 7,500. Jefferson, 8,100. Mike Evans, 7,900. Nico Collins, 7,800. But the prop on Nacua is actually the highest. Jefferson's a little bit higher. But as far as receptions, Puka is 7.5, 88.5, plus 105 to score a touchdown against the Vikings, who typically force passing more than rushing. I think if I was playing cash, I would probably on the full 6-game slate, Puka would be my top. I would play Puka over Jefferson, over Evans, over Nico Collins, over any of these guys. Can you play Jefferson instead of Puka? Sure. I mean, all these guys are great. I would probably rank them Puka 1, Jefferson 2, Evans 3, Collins 4, A.J. Brown 5. I think A.J. Brown has like the highest, like a high ceiling, but a low floor. I think it's much more likely A.J. Brown catches just like 5 passes. Like he has 5 receptions. Now he may have 128 yards to go with that, but like someone like Puka is much more likely to have a line of like 8 for 70, right? Like a much higher floor with more receptions. Same thing for Jefferson's, although they've been spreading out a lot. I mean, I don't know what's going on. Darnold can't seem to find Jefferson as much as he probably should be. So I think Jefferson has a little wider range of outcomes as well. Evans is fine. He's just that he's 7,900. It's not like he's not cheap anymore, right? He's not $7K or anything. And he has 5.5 reception prop, 75.5 receiving yard plus 105. He's fine. He's fine. I think in this range, I'm much more likely to play Puka than all the other guys. In the mid range, in like the 6K, if we sort by salary, right? We sort by salary here. If I can get up to Ladd McConkey at 6,800, I think Ladd McConkey's a pretty good play against the Texans. Then we got Sutton as a big underdog with Denver. I wouldn't consider that in cash. Kupp has a 48.5 yard prop at 6. Like I don't pay for 50-yard props at 6K prices, like with Kupp, with Pickens. Addison is like right on the line. I think I'd almost rather play Devonta Smith at 5,700 over Addison. And then we got like Terry McLaurin. I think Terry McLaurin is great GPP play. Can you play him in cash? Sure. But I'm not a big fan of playing the Commanders wide receivers in cash games because sometimes, they just disappear. Or Daniels just doesn't throw or whatever. They get up and whatever. But I think McLaurin is great for like a one-off in the GPP. And obviously if you're stacking like Daniels, McLaurin, Ertz or something like that. But it's much more likely that I pay up for Nakua and then I kind of go down in this like 5K range. And one of them is Devonta Smith at 5,700. Khalil Shakir at 5,300. Does he have the most amount of upside? No. But at 5,300, I think, 5 catches, 60 yards. I mean, 11, 12 points, you're perfectly fine. He's probably going to get a lot of work, right? Even though they're going to mix in, Cooper and Coleman and Hollins and Curtis Samuel, whatever. Khalil Shakir is like the slot guy that's like, and they typically don't play 12 personnel. So he's out there like the most. Whether or not he catches touchdowns, that's a different story. But much more likely to get you, 5 for 50, 6 for 60, 7 for 70, something like that. Jalen McMillan is okay. Marvin Mims is more of a GPP play at 5,100. And I think the same thing for Bateman. Like, if you're going to punt somewhere, I think 5K is not really a punt, right? I think Quentin Johnston, we saw the resurgence of Quentin. He caught balls. He didn't have a drop the entire game. I think Quentin Johnston is actually going to be very popular at 4,800 because you're going to need to find something down here. I think Johnston, Dontavian Wicks, especially Christian Watson's out for the season. I think Olamide Zacchaeus is okay. He's okay. On the real punt side, like sub 4K, there's really not much here. I mean, probably John Mechie. He'll be wide receiver 2 for the Texans. I mean, he's okay. I mean, don't expect much. He's 3,900. Can you play him? Jalen Naylor at 3,600. Yeah, I mean, these are the guys. This is what I mean by, like, are you going to play Bucky Irving, Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams? Like, you have to play like 2 of these guys. You're going to have to play like Shakir. You're going to have to play Shakir and Mechie. I'm going to probably play Mechie and Naylor. You have to play some of these. Sterling Shepard. You're going to have to play like multiple of these people, right? Troy Franklin, someone down here. I mean, there's really not. I mean, these are all like close your eyes and hope for the best type of plays that you would make in GPPs, but probably not in cash games. And then at tight end, there's no like high end tight ends. There's no like pay up. There's no Bowers, McBride. There's nothing up there. Probably if you could get up to Mark Andrews at 4,700, I think he has the best touchdown prop on the board for tight ends. I'm not sure if you're going to even be able to get up to 4,700. But like anyone in I think I'd rather play these tight ends than the wide receivers at these prices. So like Zach Ertz at 4,300, Pat Freiermuth at 4,400, Hawkinson at 4,200. Like, I'd much rather play Hawkinson at 4,200 than Mechie at 39, right? Or Naylor, right? I'd rather play Dallas Goedert or Tucker Kraft or Dalton. I'd rather play Dalton Schultz at 3,600 than John Mechie on the same team. So this is the reason why, like, the tight end pricing is actually quite soft. That I think if you're playing cash, if you're playing double ups and head-to-heads, I think it's much more likely that you play a double tight end lineup. Because we look here, I'm gonna run optimal, like, just straight based on our current initial projections. And you see here, it's Darnold, Williams, Irving, Johnston, Shakir, Nakua, Ertz, Hawkinson, Texans. Right? But let's say you just try to force in, like, Henry. Let's go to, let's see, Henry, sort by RGV. Henry, Irving, Williams. Like, you try to play this 3 running back type of lineup. Now, Tylan Wallace is right. You have to play Tylan Wallace, Isaiah Likely. Steelers, and you have to punt all the way down for the Steelers defense. Like, you can't, like, even if you don't play Puka, let's say we take out Puka from the lineup, right? You're still playing Mechie, like, this isn't awful. Like, if you're playing Mechie, Johnston, Shakir, like, you're probably, I mean, wide receiver position, you're getting close to single digit for multiple guys. So I'm not huge into this construction. I'd much rather play Puka in the lineup at 7,600, right? Maybe not with Wallace and Likely, because now you're not playing any of those 4K tight ends, right? I much prefer this lineup, right? Darnold, Williams, Irving, Johnston, Shakir, Puka, Ertz, Hawkinson, Texans defense or whatever. Like, I prefer this construction, right? Paying up at least one wide receiver spot, getting 2 7K plus running backs, right? Even if we plug in, let's say we plug in something like J.K. Dobbins or something in here. Where's J.K. Dobbins? Come on, give me Dobbins. D-O-B-B. Even if we plug that in, right, we're still getting like you're going to still have to play a Mechie. And you're going to still have to punt with the Steelers defense. So, yeah, I think 2 tight end builds on DraftKings for cash games. I think that is, as of now, I think that is probably the way to go. I think you get more value at tight end than you would at that 3K wide receiver. Now, those 3K wide receivers like Wallace and stuff like that, playing GPPs. I mean, guys that could catch the ball twice and score an 80-yard touchdown, great GPP plays. But do you want to be sitting there with one catch for 8 yards in your double-up lineup for 1.8 points? Probably not. You're much more likely to get tight ends. You know, some tight 4 for 38, right? And that's it. And it's like, okay, at least that's better than like potentially a 0. Okay, so double tight end is definitely in play on DraftKings. Maybe not on FanDuel. Let's go over to FanDuel. FanDuel may be a little bit different. Okay, so let's go to the quarterback position on FanDuel. See, the difference between Darnold and Daniels is much closer on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings. So the quarterback pricing, like Baker Mayfield, $7,900. Josh Allen is $8,900. That's a $1,000 difference. On DraftKings, it's like a $1,600 difference, right? So it's much more likely that you're paying up at running back, at quarterback on FanDuel. And I think all of them are fine. If you want to play Allen, play Allen. If you want to play Daniels, play Daniels. If you want to play Lamar, play Lamar. If you want to play Jalen Hurts, play Jalen. I think they're all fine. If you don't have the money and you need to play Sam Darnold, I think that's fine as well. But I think it's much more likely whatever money you have left over is going to go into quarterback. You're going to start at Darnold at 7,800. And if you have 500 more, you go into Hurts. If you have 600 more, you go to Daniels, right? Like I think on FanDuel, especially when touchdowns are more of a priority, I'm gonna focus on the guys that can actually rush for touchdowns, especially when the price discrepancy is not that big, and the pricing tends to be softer on FanDuel because of the cap, the 60K cap versus the 50K cap. So probably paying up for quarterback on FanDuel. A running back, I still think Bucky Irving is too cheap, 7,600. Probably should be 9K. Kyren Williams is okay. I think outside of Bucky Irving, you could play like any of these guys. I think the spreads between the running backs are a little bit closer. So Kyren Williams is 8,600, but Joe Mixon is 1,100 cheaper. I think Mixon is much more in play on FanDuel. And then you have like Dobbins and Jones are not nearly as cheap as they are at 6K on DraftKings. So it's less likely that you're going to be using them. Can you get up to Henry or Barkley? Maybe, depending on what you do at wide receiver. But I think the cash lineup on FanDuel starts with Irving and Mixon. And maybe it's Irvin, Mixon, and Williams. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. I haven't looked at the optimal here currently. I think like you're not playing James Cook at 8K. I don't think you're playing Najee. I mean, I wouldn't punt. I wouldn't be playing Jaleel McLaughlin at 5,500. Like you want to play guys that like have good touchdown equity, right? Right. We take a look at the touchdown props. It's like, well, Cook has good touchdown props. It just he's 8K. I'd rather play the other guys than James Cook. Let's go to wide receiver. Wide receiver, I think it's very similar to DraftKings. I think Puka is the top option at wide receiver, regardless of price. Jefferson's 9,200. Evans is 8,400. A.J. Brown, 8,600. Nico Collins, 8,500. I think Puka at 8,700. I think he's the top play on the slate at wide receiver. Then in the mid-range, you got like Cortland Sutton, Ladd McConkey. You got Terry McLaurin there at 7,700. I mean, it's got like a lot of these wide receivers are kind of like efficiently priced. I think Khalil Shakir is also viable here at 6,200. Addison, 6,800. Bateman, Jaden Reed's a little bit cheaper than normal, but I mean, has he done much? Not really, right? Like like the cheap wide receivers that like someone like Zacchaeus, I think is more of an option on DraftKings than it is on FanDuel. Typically, you're not going to like 55K types of receivers on FanDuel, but I mean, like Mechie's there at 5,100. Tylan Wallace, 4,400. I mean, it could easily be a zero. The wide receiver position on FanDuel is they're actually kind of overpriced, right? Outside of like Nakua and like guys in like the mid-range. So I don't know. Wide receiver could be kind of wide open on who you play. Maybe you do punt at one wide receiver spot on FanDuel. At tight end, you can see here in the RGB value that all the tight ends are like overpriced on FanDuel, but I still think I prefer to play these tight ends than I were the wide receivers. Like Zach Ertz is 5,800, Hawkinson 5,900, Andrews 6,200. We got Frymuth at 55, Tucker Kraft 53, Kincaid 57, Goddard 6K, Schultz 5,600, Disley 5K. Like all these guys, like we're mentioning 5K guys, and it's like, well, you're going to have to play like John Mechie instead of these guys if you're going to play him in a wide receiver spot. So it may be that you're playing two tight ends on FanDuel, maybe. Let's see. I'm gonna run the optimal and see what we get. We get Mechie in here. So it's a Daniels, Dobbins, Mixon, Irving, Mechie, Shakir, Nakua, and Zach Ertz and Commanders defense. But let's say we get rid of Mechie, right? Do we have to punt all the way down to a guy that may only get 2 targets? Because I don't like playing guys that may only get 2 targets. We'll get Zacchaeus in there. I think Zacchaeus may be a little bit better. And you're switching out Darnold, Zacchaeus in that spot. So that isn't awful, right? Let's say we get rid of Zacchaeus, Olamide, Zacchaeus, and let's see. Do we get Tylan Wallace? Yeah, I'm not going to be playing Tylan Wallace in cash games on FanDuel. Get rid of that. Let's see. Is there a way to not punt? You got Jaden Reed in there, right? J.K. Dobbins, Mixon, Irving. Still, I mean, it's mostly Shaquille and Puka. I mean, that's what most of this is. But I guess J.K. Dobbins does show up more with Darnold in Darnold type alignments because you're going to need the salary. But let's say we get rid of Jaden Reed. Is there a way that we get a little bit more balanced? Okay, this is a little bit. So you'd have to do something like this. So this is the 2 tight end lineup with Daniels, Dobbins, Irving, Shakir, Sutton, Puka Nakua, Kraft, Ertz, Texans. I mean, this is okay. This is fine, depending on if you want to play Dobbins versus Mixon. You don't see much Kyron here. So it's really, do you want to play Dobbins? Do you want to play Mixon? I mean, obviously Dobbins is on the favored side of the game, but Mixon is much more like Dobbins sees some work to Haskins and other guys out of the backfield, and I don't expect Mixon to see much work this game at all. So this is what we got on FanDuel. I think it may actually be a tougher slate on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings. Weird enough to say, only because I'm not a big fan of punting at a 5K wide receiver, low 5K level wide receiver on FanDuel. I'm more so to do that on DraftKings, where getting a 3 for 20 is not like the end of the world at one spot on DraftKings, but on FanDuel it tends to be, unless the guy scores a touchdown. Then that's all. Then we're all fine. But John Mechie with the 1.5 reception prop for 19.5 yards and like plus 325 or 350 or whatever the hell he is for a touchdown, doesn't feel good to me. Okay, someone's asking about Eckler on FanDuel. I don't think you're playing Eckler. I mean, not for like cash lineups. I mean, what the hell is Eckler? I mean, can you play him in GPP? Sure, I guess. I mean, yeah, but you're not going to be playing those types of guys. You're not playing those types of guys. You're not playing a guy with the wrong side of a timeshare in cash games. You're playing guys with predictable volume, right? You want you care more about volume than like upside. So can you play Eckler in a GPP lineup? Go for it. Have fun, right? Do you have to play someone like that on the Saturday slate, though? Probably not, right? You got Denver, Buffalo, Green Bay, Philadelphia, Washington, Tampa Bay. I mean, you're probably playing Irving. You can play Irving and Jacobs, Irving. I mean, even Brian Robinson Jr. I'd rather play, right, for the Commanders. I mean, the shorter slates are going to be a little bit more tricky, where there's not many places to go. You're going to have to play John Mechie, right, on the 2-game Saturday slate. Right, 2-game Saturday slate with Chargers, Texans, Steelers, Ravens. Probably going to have to play a Rashad Bateman, Tylan Wallace, Mechie, whatever line. You're going to have to play those guys. There's only 2 games. What else are you going to do? You got a little bit more of an option on the full 6-game slate. Obviously, on the showdown slate, all you're doing is playing Vikings and Rams, so it doesn't really matter. Okie doke. I think went through as much as I could by myself for a 6-game wild card round slate. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Give me those thummy thumbs. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to always know when I go live. Tomorrow I'll be on with Grant talking props and pick 'em. Then on Friday we'll be ranking all the teams for GPPs. Talking about GPP strategy. I think TJ's on. TJ or Bobby. I never know. I don't know who's going to be on. I just show up sometimes and I don't know. Who am I on with? Okay. Or I see the tweet and I tweet, okay, this guy's going to be on with me. I'm here by myself today, though. So give me those extra thummy thumbs for handling this all on my own, because I'm here for you. I'm always here for you on weekdays, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props and pick 'em on RotoGrinders Today.